Hey, what's up, TAW Mafia? I didn't give. I'm gonna slaughter this. I told you I'm gonna slaughter this. Xenia.
Yeah.
Yes, I did okay. I'm gonna say famous Russian vlogger because you guys, as far as
Classic.
pro wrestling, are isolated like me in Montana. So as always, folks, make sure you watch us here live on YouTube or also on Xenia's YouTube channel at the same time. Follow her down there at the bottom. You guys, it's going to be up there most of the night tonight. So if you want to know what's going on at her questions. We're going to have comments down here as well. Hey, look, already the game 18 to
Hi.
11 saying hi. I don't know if you know him or not. I don't know
Hi.
if you're a fan of that person or not, but hey, we're here. You can follow us at Three Irish Boys. You can follow me at 406 Yeti. As always, we are part of the Wrestling News Source family. Um, Most people would be familiar with them. We don't break the dirt sheets, we actually break news. So it's top 10. There's 520,000 people that follow us on Facebook, 83,000 on Twitter, and 11,000 on Instagram. But I think most of those are Ben's fans. So if you got comments, folks, as we go along, post them in here. But really, this is just an opportunity for two really cool wrestling fans to get together from two parts of the world that people would never expect. We were just talking off camera about how often we get to see pro wrestling. So, welcome to the Irish Whip podcast, the video version today. And it's great to have you. It's going to be fun. This is going to be a really good time.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. Like, it's great to get to experience like different people's outlook on wrestling from different parts of the world. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And I
really
think
cool.
our outlook's going to be kind of the same. So if you guys aren't really familiar with Xenia's work, what I'm going to do, it's really easy. Is you guys aren't going to be able to see this, so I'm just going to kind of go through this. If you're not going to be able to see the sound, but I'm going to play that because that's obviously you, and you can maybe highlight your 39-second video that you put together. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So this is you. It's obviously going
This
to
is
have some
my
highlights. Who are we going
trailer.
who are we going to see in this video? Who are we going to see in this?
Uh, and actually, like, I want to say that this video is like an older version, and
Yep, it is.
since I
Yep.
made that trailer, like, I've had a lot of fun stuff to do, and I've interviewed more people. But in this video, we're gonna see like some snippets of me vlogging live shows, of me interviewing wrestlers such as Stu Bennett, formerly known as Wade Barrett, such as Ultramantis Black, and we're gonna see me like unboxing stuff. This is basically like a very like short overview of what I do on my channel.
Here's what's going to be really cool about this is you just said Ultramantis Black, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Chikara, right?
yeah.
Oh my god.
And he
Like
actually
I didn't.
he came to Russia. He was here, and that's how I got to interview him.
Okay, so let's
So
take a bit. This is about a 40-second clip. You guys are going to be able to really see that, but um, to kind of take it through us when we're talking about that. Obviously, this
yeah.
is you being cool somewhere.
Yeah, this is me at Ringside Fest. This was my first experience being an anchor, which was really great. And I'm
Look at
also a
you.
figure collector, so this was fun.
So this is when you're reviewing stuff, figure collectors. This is when you decide
Yeah,
to break in, kind of doing what you want to do.
yeah, I guess so. And actually, the small snippet that you guys who are watching saw of me being interviewed in a blue shirt, it was like a pretty fun story actually that I can tell later if you want me to. It was like the first time that WWE kind of like tried to, I don't know, include me in something, which I'm not sure if it worked out, but it was WrestleMania 29. No, it was WrestleMania 33 week, I think, or 29. I can't remember. It was WrestleMania week anyway. And there was this like reception before NXT TakeOver, and I got to talk to Lana, who is, I always say that she's kind of Russian. Like, she's not purely Russian, but she's Slavic and she speaks Russian as her first language.
Right?
So I got to talk to her in Russian. and there were these like WWE employees that were doing like highlights for like WrestleMania week events, and they heard us like speaking Russian to each other, and they got really excited about it, and they like started asking me questions. Then they like asked us to speak Russian to each other on camera, so that was kind of fun and weird.
Did it? Is it? Do you find it? I guess that's the thing. Why, and it's what attracted kind of us to you as well. Is that we don't find very many fans of pro wrestling from Russia as a nation or a country. And you talked about that kind of before we started here. Is that is it hard to find fans over there to enjoy things with and interact with in your country?
I don't think it's necessarily hard to find like wrestling fans, because obviously there are many, and since WWE came here with shows twice and they had packed stadiums, it wasn't like a huge arena, but it was packed at what they kind of was at what they estimated the audience would be. But the thing is, it's hard to experience wrestling here because we only have like 3 major promotions in the whole entire Mother Russia. Like, you can imagine how huge of a country it is. So it's kind of hard for you to reach wrestling if you don't live in one of the capitals like Moscow or St. Petersburg. It's really hard for you to kind of like get in touch with the industry. You can barely even watch it on TV. Like, WWE and Lucha Underground are on Russian TV, but they're only on cable. So, and to see a live show, even you'd have to come to Russia or to St. Petersburg. So it's kind of hard to like get involved with the industry as much as, say, I am involved with it.
Right. How about AEW? Do you guys have access to AEW over there right now?
Well, we have access to it through Fight TV, like any other person wherever in the world, but
Okay.
we don't have it on like television. No.
Okay, good deal. Because we've got, you guys get it over there, I think, on Fight TV. We get it on what we call regular TV on Ted Turner's network. So we get it on TNT, and then we can't watch the pay-per-views on Fight TV. We get them on cage side seats on this side. So if you try to go watch that on Fight, it doesn't work because that's more on that side of the pond.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a difference for us.
And actually, like access to wrestling, even if we're not talking live shows, but like we're talking just simply watching WWE or AEW weeklies, it's also like a problem for people in Russia, because you can either like catch it on cable with like Russian commentary, like very official, all kinds of things. But if you don't, like, it's really hard for you to find it anywhere, because Fight TV is one thing, but there are people who don't speak English, believe it or not. Like, such
Right.
people exist.
Exactly. Look at arrogant Americans. You don't speak
And
English?
for them, it's like really hard to even figure it out, like the platform itself, to figure out how to make a subscription. And then if they do get through it, it's hard for them to watch because there's only English commentary. So
This is the way I equate it, because I spent about 6 months over in Japan, and I didn't have cable, I didn't have cable access, so I would watch just some of the craziest stuff on Japanese television, but they always had pro wrestling on there. The pro wrestling was always really a staple besides baseball over there.
baseball in Japan?
Oh yeah, they
I had
are.
no idea.
It's huge. Even in Korea, like Korea is even, I think, bigger than Japanese baseball, and it's loud. Like there's chant. It's like a soccer game, but at a baseball stadium. It is it's some of the funnest things to ever really experience. But along with that is like their pro wrestling is. I learned a little bit of it, but I could watch the matches, and I would try to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for me. But you, being fluent in so many languages you are, it's probably a little bit
It's
easier
not
for you,
so
right?
many. Stop it. Like, you're making me out to be like some sort of a genius. I'm not. I
So
speak obviously Russian, I speak English, and I speak some Spanish, but not like.
right. Well, I
Yeah.
barely speak English, so that's good. Talk about times Joey Ryan. Obviously, you said PJ Black is some
Yeah.
other individuals that you've talked to. Um, you said Black Mantis. What is your and the reason that I say Ultra Black Mantis and Chikara is because we didn't talk about Chikara before this episode started, and
Oh.
I believe it or not, this right here, that's a mask that I got
Uh-huh.
in the last parcel of power, which is something that they used to sell all the time. And I don't know if you know who Mike Quackenbush is,
Yeah.
but that's Mike Quackenbush's
Cool.
signature right there, sending me the last parcel of power. And so it's we're huge fans. I'm a huge fan. JP is a huge fan. Chikara is a big part of why we do what we do.
But you know, like the fun thing is, Ultramantis Black was the first interview that I've ever recorded for my channel. So I kind of hold it near and dear to my heart.
And you should, because it's
Yeah.
they those are very sacred and protected identities that those guys
Yeah.
take and take on. There are people in AEW that have personas right now in other places. They're all over the place, and what people don't realize is how integral like that Wrestle Factory and those guys are to pro wrestling. And it's just interesting that you consume pro wrestling the same way that I do, because you've got it. You don't get it over there. You've got to go. If, like
Yeah.
you said, you're located in Moscow, you're lucky if you get it there, and if you don't, you get a chance maybe to fly to the States once a
Yeah.
year. Otherwise, it's all through the screen.
Yeah. When I experienced my first ever wrestling show, like in person live, at that point I had been a fan for like 5-ish years, I think. So for me, like it's incredible, like how much of a connection I should develop with an industry, a show that I'm willing to like stay there and like keep up and watch it for 5 years without getting to experience it. And I know that there are sports fans who don't like usually watch live sports, but I feel like wrestling is a little different because it's very important to like get this, atmosphere and stuff. So for me, it was cathartic like, when I finally saw wrestling live for the first time. So yeah.
Do you did you get into it? I mean, were you screaming and yelling and hollering? I mean, obviously we saw a little bit in that intro clip from when you were there for. I mean, you had your camera up, you were going. Is it? Are you like me when you go? Like you lose it. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
cathartic. You just get into it.
Yeah, I do. Like, it's incredible just how a live wrestling show makes you feel because, for example, say WrestleManias, these past couple of years have been very, very long, right? Except
Right.
for, of course, this year's one. Uh, and it's excruciating to watch when you're at home. Like, it's very long and you get tired and you maybe get bored. But I went to WrestleMania twice. And when I was there, I you just don't feel time passing by. Like you're just in the moment, and even when you're there for like 7 hours, it's still not enough. Like you still want more.
So you're gonna have to help me see. So this is part of your participation in your
Yeah.
YouTube channel right there.
Yeah,
What
I
is
know.
this?
I know
What is
this
this
guy. Hey
gentleman's
there.
name? What
Igor.
is? Okay, so
Yeah.
there were a bunch of guys from Russia who had wrestling tryouts in the U.S. They did, but I think
Yeah.
a lot of that ended up being like you talked about. It's hard to get a work visa,
Yeah, it
let
is.
alone any visa whatsoever. I think over there where you're at sometimes. So I think that might have a lot to do with it. It's not a lack of want or desire. It's just a lack of the ability.
Yeah, but I feel like recently there's been more Russian wrestlers than ever getting international recognition, and it might not be America every time, but there is wrestling in Europe, in other places.
Absolutely,
So, and even if we're talking America, I bet you know Masha Slamovich. She
absolutely,
appeared on NXT.
yes,
Uh, so I guess you could say, is in the process of making it in the USA, and she's
yes,
really great. And she actually performed a couple of times here in Moscow in IWF Russia, the local promotion. And then we have one wrestler from IWF Russia who went to WXW to Germany, which is also really great. And also, fun fact, this wrestler, his name is Vladimir Kulakov, and he's one of the first professional wrestlers in Russia, like at all, like one of the absolute first people to wrestle here. So
that's
that's
so. What
pretty
are some
cool.
of the promotions, federations? What are they? I don't know. Over here we call them promotions. Is that what you associate over there in Russia too? Do you call them promotions?
I mean,
Like,
in English, yeah, I call them promotions, but
okay,
in Russia we call them federations, basically.
Oh, right. Okay. So
It's weird.
hey, I'm there. Cool. All right. I did a little bit of homework. So what are some of the uh, larger
Uh-huh.
or what people, if they aren't familiar with promotions in Russia, what are some of the bigger ones or main ones that somebody, if they want to check them out, should be able would want to check them out, where they should go?
Yeah, the biggest one and like the first one in the history of Russia is IWF Russia. It's located here in Moscow, and I'm their informational partner. And they have a YouTube channel. You can just search up IWF Russia on YouTube, and they have free weekly shows that you guys can check out. And trust me, it's worth checking out because they are doing really great work, and it is quality product. And I feel like they are really holding themselves up to a great standard, and they are succeeding in it. The other one would be the one that's located in St. Petersburg. It's called NSW, Northern Storm Wrestling. And even though they are like younger and smaller, they still have a lot of great wrestlers and a lot of young, hungry, up and coming superstars. So it's also really, really fun to watch. And they sometimes do like themed shows. Like they had like Bash at the Beach type of thing, and they had like the 80s type of thing, which was really, really fun. And the third one is located in Nizhny Novgorod, and it's called Energy W. And it's, again, like even younger, but they are like very, I guess you could say, unique. They are very different to the first two ones that I named because they are more on the hardcore side, which is also
Okay.
really interesting. And then, like, one thing we have in Russia is we have this yearly like festival, a deathmatch festival. It's called Slavonic Violence.
Well, say
And
that again. We got it because I'm a huge. We might have to get onto this. I'm a huge CZW fan, and I
oh,
have
okay,
been
you're gonna like.
yeah, since the beginning. And this it plays on a lot of that. So, um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sensitive word.
So
Sorry.
there's a death match festival. What is it called?
Yeah, Slavonic Violence.
Okay.
And I think if there are like some like hardcore deathmatch fans watching or listening right now, you guys might have even heard of it because every time it happens, there's like a GIF or a video that goes completely viral.
Right.
And yeah, but because it's just crazy.
You got a follower and a fan in this young man right there,
Yeah.
and he knows his Russian wrestling.
Yeah, I said that Nerj W was from Nizhny Novgorod. That was my mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's good. That's why we do this because trust me, whenever I do this,
Yeah.
I make at least 8 of them in a show, and I get corrected every time. So it's this is the fun part, right?
Yeah.
So I worked on 2 questions actually because we were going to do more, but obviously when we first started about this, we were talking. We got the political stuff out of the way and how everybody's doing and all that, and maybe we'll get into that into a little bit. But I got 2 questions for you. First one is, what is your earliest memory of professional wrestling? What's your earliest memory, if you can?
I can. It's like it's a funny story because I always say that like wrestling has been like my destiny from the get-go. Because I started watching wrestling, like consciously consuming the product when I was 11. But my first memory of wrestling was way before that. I was like a little kid. I was like 7 or 6, I think. And we went to a toy store with my parents. And I, instead of like buying myself a Barbie, I wanted to buy myself this like chunky, bulky, like plastic jacked dude. Which is like what was like this big, like a toy. I as a figure collector that I am right now, I'm like desperate to find out what it was actually, but I don't know. But then I realized a couple of like, well, not a couple of like 5 years later, that it was a figurine of Edge. So I was playing with
Nice.
action
That's
figures like
awesome.
way before I started watching wrestling. So that's pretty cool.
So you had your first, and this typically I think is what it is with most, kids that get exposed to it now is it's a toy.
Yeah.
Like my youngest one has Big E. That's his one that he has
Mm.
right now, which is Big E, and it's like I don't want to inundate him with like more and more. Already deal enough with Paw Patrol as it is, so we just keep it with one. And it's interesting in what you have a specific line of toys that you prefer, right?
Um, yes and no. Like I mostly collect Mattels,
Okay.
but I'm very open to anything else. Like the thing is, again, being from Russia and living here, it's kind of difficult to be a figure collector, and
Yes.
it's even more difficult to expand beyond Mattel because Mattels are the most accessible. Like you can order them. Basically, they deliver worldwide, like ringside collectibles. It's easy. But when I came to Las Vegas for the first time a couple of years ago, I went to Fight Shop, and now they're like my great friends, and I know people who work there. And it was that the first time. It was the first time that I saw an ROH figure, and I was very, very excited because I've never even seen it before. So maybe if I were exposed to more different figures and toys, I would be collecting more. But as of right now, I just get what I can reach. So
Yeah, you're like me. Is if I see something that I like I think the last one I've got it sitting over here is Shane Hurricane Helm. So I saw that, I was
mm,
like, oh, I want that one, and I'll drop $20 on an elite figure when I see one that I like. I don't want
yeah,
the Seth Rollins one this time. I don't want the Matt or Jeff Hardy, or I don't want any of that. Yeah, if I see one that I like, and that custom Funko Pop that Dave Cole did for me of Rhea
mm,
Ripley, that she doesn't even have a Funko Pop out right now. I'm the only one in the world that has one, and that's the kind of stuff that makes me
yeah,
feel good. Is that those custom things that even people make for you, or send to you, or
mm,
it makes you feel good, right? To just, when they say, hey, can you review this figure for us, or like, it's nice to have a respected opinion, right?
yeah. But like also there have been instances where I was like searching for a specific figure for like a long time, and it was difficult to get it because at one point I was searching for Ruthless Aggression Beth Phoenix from Jack Specific, and I only found it from like a seller from South Africa who
Wow.
had to ship it to me, like to Russia here. Another thing was when I was looking for, well, it wasn't as hard to find, but still, as you might know, I'm a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not. I'm not a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler. No,
that's
I'm just kidding.
okay.
No, I'm just.
That's fair. But yeah, I was looking for a Jack specific figure of the Spirit Squad Nikki, and I
Okay,
now proudly own it. So
nice. I've Spirit Squad that's another one of those things. Like, it's Kenny. Kenny in Beyond Wrestling, before all the COVID stuff, like seeing Kenny make his little comeback from Spirit Squad. So that's fun.
yeah,
Those are cool things. Those are actions or collectibles that mean things to you, right?
yeah, yeah. I treasure them a lot.
What's been like the interview side of it? What's been? I mean, Black Ultra Manus was fun. What's been what was the funnest one? I mean, like, you obviously Joey Ryan was probably fun.
It's so hard to like pick one because I feel
I
like
had to ask because
I
everybody always asks me, and I can't.
yeah, it's so
It's like,
hard, right?
yep,
Like every time I score an interview, it's always like a story in itself, because like one thing is, which is the easier part, I guess you could say, is that IWF Russia gives me the opportunity to interview their international guests, which is also really great. But some of the interviews that I've had in the United States during my wrestling trips are just pure luck, are just like magic. So
right.
maybe one of my favorites was the PJ Black interview because I had to like perform in extreme conditions because it was on the day, well, or should I say on the night that I flew in to Las Vegas, and I had a layover in LA, and it was like 20 hours of travel. And there was this show that he was in, and he's like one of my absolute favorite wrestlers. He's like in my all-time top 5. So I had to catch it, but like my plane landed at like 7 and the show started at 8. So I was like, well, I guess I'll catch like the last 10 minutes or whatever, but I'm still going. And I thought like, well, if I'm making it super stressful for myself, why won't I just try for an interview? So I messaged him on Instagram like just out of the blue. Like I didn't have any connections. I didn't like have anyone introduce me or anything like that. I just messaged him and I was like, hey, like I'm this and that. Would you mind doing an interview? And he said yes. So like it was a very stressful night because like I fly in, my friend picks me up. I need to check into the hotel, which is huge and packed, and it takes such a long time as well. Like I drop my bags, I call an Uber, and it's the middle of the night. Like it's dark. I'm alone. I am a foreigner. I'm a girl, and I'm alone in this Uber that's driving me to this like very distant location where this tiny, teeny indie show is taking place, and it's basically it's like outside of the city. And it's like dark everywhere, and it's like almost a car garage where the show is taking place. So like, I think I don't know, I lost like 5 years of my life while trying to get there, and then while trying to get out of there because I had no data, obviously, because I'm not from America, and I can't just have my provider turn on the data for me like in the spur of the moment. And they had no Wi-Fi. So I had someone call an Uber for me, and then I basically had no way of tracking it, whether like it's here or not. And I ended up snatching someone else's Uber, which is very dangerous, especially for a girl. But yeah, it was like this journey to this interview was fraught with dangers and
Right.
stress. But in the end of the day, it was a great experience.
Do you like when you talk about that? Because a lot of times, those are some of the best interviews that have ever happened for us.
Yeah.
Brian Pillman, before he started with the MLW and all of this, when we first decided to do this again, was one of the first young kids that we reached out again. And the reason why is because he had just competed or had went against Matt Seidel for a belt. And it was fresh out of training. He was still pretty young. He didn't really want to be identified as Brian Pillman Jr. per se. He was going by Brian Pillman II at that time. So it's one of those things you just reach out when they say yes. You're like, oh shit, now what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, I guess I'll try it. Like, maybe he says yes. And then he actually does, and you're like, oh my God, how am I
now
going to
I
make
gotta,
this happen?
yeah, now I have to figure out questions. Now I have to put everything together. Now I have to, and this all started because we brought up the fact that we loved when Stone Cold Steve Austin went to the house, the whole Brian Pillman with the gun. I don't know if this is old stuff, but when he was coming up, JP tweeted at him if Stone Cold Steve Austin had ever reimbursed Brian Pillman Jr. for that nice green pool that he destroyed when he was a kid. So that's what kicked it all off again. So it was really a good time. And it was really one of the coolest things that we did. And like Joey Ryan, I mean, he's one of the independent guys. He just, no matter where you go, he is who he is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
How about,
what's great about Joey Ryan is that he's like so open to any type of like collaborations or media or all kinds of things. And if with PJ Black, I like messaged him and asked him, with Joey Ryan, it was basically on the spot. Like I just,
right.
yeah, like I just was at the meet and greet and I said like, would you like to do an interview today? And he was like, okay.
How
like
much,
on the day.
how much professionally, like I know you probably started doing this as a hobby to like, I want to make this what I do. How much did you grow professionally by doing that, by taking that chance? How much did that improve your ability to see and go, or confidence building, like what did it do for you when you did that?
I think I grew tremendously, but it's like a two-way street. On the one hand, I grew as a person, as a professional, as a PR professional while doing that. But on the other hand, my PR background and my journalistic background has helped me tremendously as well. Like I have a degree in PR and advertising, and I've taken like a journalism course. I've worked at a news channel in Russia before starting all of that. And it's all been really, really helpful on this journey for me.
What, talk about PJ Black? Like how did that come about in that interview? Because that was a fun interview. That looked like you guys had some fun. I mean, he's just natural, right?
Yeah, he's great. He's really great to work with, to talk to. Like the thing is, about my interviews is that I don't like to ask generic questions. Of course, there are still questions that I ask basically any wrestler because, say, it's a wrestler from Norway or Israel or something like that. Of course, you want to know like what the scene is like and like how did you come to be a wrestler in a country where wrestling is not a huge industry. But then whenever I interview a wrestler, I try to employ like a personal approach. I try to figure out what the wrestler himself or herself likes and enjoys and wants to talk about. And that's like my main thing that I keep in mind while writing up questions for the interview.
Right. Um, so all in all, how much pro wrestling do you? I mean, when Raw is on over here for us, we're spoiled because we get to watch it when it's live.
Yeah.
What time? When do you get to consume that?
I watch it live sometimes too. But
Wow.
it's like of course it's wrecking your sleep schedule and everything, but yeah, as I said, there is WWE on cable, which I have, and I watch it here, and they have of course replays later. But yeah, I feel like for a European person, watching WWE live is an experience in itself, because like it's the same for you guys when you watch Wrestle Kingdom, I think, because like you get to stay up, you get to stock
Yeah.
up on snacks, you get to grab a friend and like pull an all-nighter for a wrestling show, so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
That's for us. It is like Wrestle Kingdom. It's like, oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
It's like,
But
are we
for
gonna
me
be
it's
able?
like two Wrestle Kingdoms every week. or three if I want to watch like something else as well.
Yeah, see, my deal is like I'm busy. Like my time is money for me. So I
Mhm.
wish I could consume as much pro wrestling as I want to. And I
Yeah.
can't. I just can't because there's not enough time between Raw and SmackDown and NXT and AEW. That let alone right there. I mean, that's like an 8-hour job. That's all.
Yeah,
Never.
it's like a
That's
full-time job basically,
it
right?
is. And you've got to be able to consume that stuff so that when it's time, you
Yeah,
can actually have a conversation about it.
and if you were to watch also say 205 Live and Main Event and AW Dark, like it's your whole entire week booked.
Yeah, and
So
then for me, because we do mainly stuff with independent guys before they get there, like Beyond
mm,
Wrestling and Chikara and Defy and Bar Wrestling and all of that, where these guys are rolling around like Anthony Green and Josh Briggs and Jonathan Silver and Solo Darling and all this, even Green Ant and the Ants from Chikara.
yeah.
We that's where our niche is at. So I I just I go to Hulu. That's where I go. Hulu's my standby because I want to
Which is
watch it
not
live.
available in Russia again.
Still, really, you guys don't have Hulu either. I thought we were a capitalist nation. Why can't we get that figured out? Why can't we help?
I think because like the thing about Russians, that's it's not gonna sound very pleasant, but in the end of the day it's true. Like it's still new and foreign to us that we have to pay for content, you know? Like many Russian people don't want to like pay for stuff.
Right.
So they would rather like if they want to watch again Raw, they would rather like pirate it and like find it somewhere than like pay for a service to provide that for them.
Well, I get that. I absolutely get that because we do it in the States too. I mean, I'm sure when AEW is on and we can't, nobody wants to pay $50 for a pay per view. So I'm
Yeah.
sure they're finding the illegal streams or wherever they're at doing whatever they do. And for me, it just literally comes down to time and investment because
Yeah.
typically we've got a guest that we'll pull out of who knows where. And if I'm not familiar with them, then I'll try to do my absolute
Yeah.
best. And sometimes I fail miserably at doing as much research as I can because a lot of these times there's very limited information on them. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Pillman for one, Ace Austin was another one. I mean, this was just based on his work in AAW in Ohio, and then he went to Impact. So it's things like that to where I don't have time to if it's bad, if it's if
yeah,
and like this COVID thing has been really hard to for I miss the WWE universe in the crowd.
yeah,
I didn't realize how much I did, but even at a live event, you get to participate. I mean, you're doing what you're doing, and I actually sat down and watched Raw for the first time this last week, and I enjoyed the fact that they had some of the NXT people in their 6-foot social distancing hockey boxes that they had them in, or whatever it was
Yeah,
in.
but then again, there are reports that they had to like stand for like hours on end, and that it was really like,
it's bad.
it's
Bad.
bad.
It's not fun. It's
Yeah.
not fun. And I don't know. I get it and I understand it. And I still think that we're very fortunate to have the ability to watch pro wrestling
Yeah.
on television or through our pay services or whatever it is. But it's really difficult to watch. And they really have to be on their game. And it's different. It's just different. I don't know
Yeah.
for
And
you.
like regarding the interviews, like I totally get what you're saying, because I always try to do research, and as I said, I try to like get to the bottom of like what this wrestler stands for, basically. But sometimes it will be like a wrestler from a country which has like very like little wrestling like at all. Like I've done like a very in-depth interview, and it's gonna be up on my channel soon. Like it's not done yet, with the like the first wrestling coach in Romania, the first like person who brought pro wrestling to Romania. Like there's only so much research that you can do if there's like barely any wrestling in the country. Or it can be a wrestler from, as I said, I've done interviews with wrestlers from Norway, from India, from uh, like from all the all the different types of countries, and sometimes you can't just Google a person. Like you can Google Joey Ryan, like, and you can see and watch and listen to all kinds of things about him. But sometimes you can't just do that, and it's really hard to make this interview interesting and to make it like something worth watching when you like yourself barely have any idea of what's happening, and you really want to like make this wrestler also feel comfortable and make them want to share stuff with you. But then also when it comes to countries that don't have that much wrestling, you also feel like in your interview that you're putting out to a certain audience, like of course I'm not like a super like incredibly huge channel with like millions of followers, but I still have this like audience that trusts me and that like likes my content, and I feel like it's my responsibility to make at least a portion of these people find interest in wrestling that's happening in that country and go check it out and go take a look at it and go support that wrestler that I interviewed. So it's really hard to get to the bottom of it sometimes.
Absolutely. And you nailed it right on the head. It's really difficult when you find somebody you're like, man, that kid, he looks really good. Or you see something about him, I'm like, that would be really fun. I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah,
Basically, what to me is when you interview somebody, you're just having a conversation and asking questions that you want answered from that specific individual because you're
exactly.
interested
Yeah.
in them. You have a desire or a basic understanding that I want to learn more about this person, and I think if I can learn more and I can at least get the story out, maybe more people will want to know more about them. And that's really all we're doing is we're not here to
Yeah.
I'm not here to glorify myself or yourself. It's really
Yeah.
here to share a common story and have fun in pro wrestling, which is cathartic for a lot of us to where we can escape and get away from that stuff out there, that whether it's the COVID or
Yeah.
all the other stuff right now, it's an escape for us. And it's even harder to escape when that escape is affected by it. I guess that's the best way for me to put it.
Yeah, but like there's one other thing that this whole conversation made me think of is, yes, like most of the time you yourself are like invested in this wrestler or like interested in this wrestler, and you, well, not directly, but you kind of want to like promote them, you want to help them as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
But sometimes it's not the case. Like sometimes you go to interview a person, and then during the shoot you realize that you completely disagree with them on
Yes.
some like important topics, and then there's this like question of how do I work with it, like what do I do with it. Like there's this video that I made, right, and there's this person, like we're not name dropping anyone of course, but there's a person like that I completely disagree with and whose views are like completely wrong in my mind, right? And there are several options that I have. Like I can put it out just the way it is and let people judge it themselves, but then they might think that I agree with that, which I don't want. Or like I can make a preface saying that, hey, like I don't agree with this person, but then this person will be offended and then they'll feel like I'm trying to like frame them for something.
Right.
Or I can just scrap it and just just delete the footage and just pretend it never happened. And I don't think there is a right decision there. It's just it's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard for me too, because even with with Nico and JP, usually when we do our show, we'll watch the same thing and we'll have 3 different opinions on it typically.
Mhm.
And well, do we disagree a lot of the time? Absolutely. But am I gonna sit there and listen to their point of view? Absolutely. Am I gonna arbitrarily agree with them just because they're on this show or having a conversation? Nope. No way. Because like you, I don't want to go back and somebody say you what now? No, if I don't like something, I don't like anything. I didn't like David Arquette as the WCW champion. I disliked it immensely when that happened. JP loves it. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever because it put that belt on the map, which he's right, and I hate him for it.
Yeah, but one thing is disagreeing about like wrestling stuff. Like, oh, this person should get a push. Oh, no, they shouldn't. Like, it's part of the fun. Like,
Yes.
we all view it differently, and I always say that some people don't like my opinions because I have a pretty different outlook on wrestling than some fans, because I see it mostly as, say, an art form, as like theater more than a sport, which some people disagree with completely. But another thing is when you're like interviewing a wrestler and they sit down and tell you that global warming is not real and that like oppression is not real, and you're just sitting there like what do I do now? Even
The quickest response to things like that it's why we do the pre stuff that we do, is because we got a chance to have the conversations. We got our hello, how are you? How's the weather? This is political stuff that's going on.
But again, some things don't come out right away.
Nope.
Like you could be talking to a person before the interview and learn that they have a loving wife and children, that they are volunteers in animal shelters, and you're like, oh, cool, great. But then all of a sudden the topic like switches and you realize that something's happening there.
Yeah, and you have to go with it.
With it, yeah, and you can't like get up and leave.
Yeah,
like, that's your job.
The Meats and Tweets boys are here hanging out with us. They barbecue and make some of the best food in the world, and then they share it on Twitter and make everybody hungry. Is really what they do. They're bad, sick individuals when it comes to food. What do you know? And like I said, I had 2 questions, right? So I asked my first one. We got the toys out of the way. The second one is this one. Are you a fan of Nikolai Volkov and his work?
I can't really like answer this question directly,
right?
Because first of all, like I'm pretty young, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And I didn't catch all of that happening as it did. And I wouldn't say that I have like a very like strong emotional connection with old school wrestling. Like I would not say that at all. Like I prioritize catching all the like recent events over going back and rewatching older stuff.
Got you.
But if your underlying question is whether a gimmick of like a Soviet wrestler who is like evil, whether it's offensive to Russians, then no, it's totally not.
No, not really underlying. Just for me, I guess the way I was going with this is because like I'm a huge Sergeant Slaughter mark. I'm a huge Sergeant Slaughter mark. Like that was, as a kid growing up, for me, that was it. And it was always Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. And it was never a dislike or anything like that. It was more of a curiosity for me as a kid. It cued me into, okay, like I understand the stereotypes and the gimmicks, and like not every American is Sergeant Slaughter, not every American is Iron Sheik,
not every Russian is Nikolai Volkov.
Exactly, not every Iranian is Iron Sheik. It's just that's the way that it is. And it was always interesting to me as a kid to see how the political environment always played out in the WWE per se.
And
And
it's
as I
true
got
that.
I got older, and understood how pro wrestling works, is that
Mhm.
yes, Sergeant Slaughter was a pretty, like, he was a big guy, but but Nikolai Volkov was bigger. He was
Mm.
you knew Sergeant Slaughter, but you knew the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov because that's the people that you were supposed to. So for me,
Yeah.
it's always been, I'm always, and I'm an enhancement talent guy, fans. If I saw somebody that came in the old days that everybody knew, like a Harley Race, and then there was another guy in the corner, I knew that when they announced the other guy in the corner, I knew that when he came out, there was somebody else coming out. Like, I knew before somebody else came out, I knew
Yeah.
the jobbers, as they used to call them, when they came
Yeah.
out, like JP, like, we were going to have a good match. So the reason I asked that is because it's hard for me and to go back, probably for you, and watch things like WrestleMania 3, Andre Giant and Hulk Hogan, because all
Yeah.
that is basically just psychology, and there's no back and forth to it, no real flow to it per se, like the new wrestling.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But like, I think the reason why I rarely go back and watch the older stuff is again because of the way that I perceive wrestling. Like, I want, like, some people are mad that wrestling has become like very much of a show, like very like audience oriented, But for me, like, that's exactly what I love about it. And like, I want to see a colorful show. I want to see like them trying to like sell it to me, And some of the older stuff just doesn't like do that for me.
I agree, and I was never a fan of New Japan. I wasn't. I've known it. I've known it existed over there. Like when Fergal Devitt came over, or when Finn Balor came over to the States for the first time, JP and Joe interviewed him on the Irish Whip. So it wasn't like we weren't naive to it. It was more, we didn't understand the
Mhm.
ability that a British strong style could have, or the impact that it could have on the entire world of pro wrestling. Like, uh, Pete Dunne as the bruiserweight is insanity. I mean, a guy like that, he changes things. It's the styles, the lucha libres, all the stuff that we get exposed to now, that I appreciate, that I didn't
Yeah.
get to experience that. The only way I got to watch a lucha libre style match is if Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero were going to be in a match. Now, I get a mix of that if by watching whatever promotion I want to on whatever website, channel, subscription service that I want. And I think that's what's like unique for people like us,
Yeah.
is we don't get a chance to run down and watch 4 shows in a matter of 7 days and only have to drive 20 miles.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that you've never been like a fan of New Japan before, because like I watch New Japan, but I am not like caught up. I'm not like up to date. I don't watch like every show, but I try to kind of like keep my eye on it. And because there are some wrestlers in New Japan that I really, really like. I'm a huge fan of Jay White, of Juice Robinson. But the thing is, if you were to make me pick between, say, New Japan and AEW, I would pick AEW in an instant. Because I feel like for me, New Japan is a little bit too sports based. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, you are, because you've got you have the live interviews, you have all of that goes. It's like as soon
Yeah,
as the match is over, they're interviewing them with the screen back there, and they're having reactions to it. I get it.
yeah,
I do, absolutely. There you go. So I was lucky enough to see one of Pete Dunne's last independent matches. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's a good guy. Just a good guy, all around good person, and cares, because that's the type of person he is, right?
yeah. And talking about Pete Dunne, there was also this spot that like was one of the reasons why I met one of my friends, and I think you must know her. Her name is Alex, Queen of the Ring.
Yes. Yeah.
She's also a wrestling YouTuber. And like one of the first things that I saw of her was that spot where Pete Dunne took her shoe to beat someone up with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the things is this. It's when we get a chance to experience that as pro wrestling fans. The people that don't get it, like we don't care if you don't get it because we
Yeah.
do, and it's an escape for us. Well, you guys are stuck in your TVs worrying about us worrying about toilet paper during the COVID, and you guys were worried about what over there in Russia?
About buckwheat.
Buckwheat. Okay.
Which is really like it's strange to you, but I kind of get it. But still,
No,
it's
toilet
just
paper
because
was
like
strange to me. Toilet paper was way
yeah, like
strange
what are
to
you
me.
gonna do with all of it? Like, but yeah, maybe people thought that all of the like supermarkets will close down, or that maybe they'll run out of supplies, and people try to like stock up on food that has long shelf life. So maybe that's why they bought like all of the buckwheat. Even right now in the stores, like there's none of it. So
Do you feel like you guys are in quarantine over there? We're kind of not. I mean, here
well,
where I'm at,
we're not technically in quarantine. We're in self isolation.
yeah,
So
optional. You guys are in optional isolation, right? You guys have
yeah,
to basically, you're and I, everybody's dealing with it. You have to be isolated to a certain
yeah.
extent, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like what's going on right now is in Moscow at least. I'm not sure about the other cities whether they are still doing it, but in Moscow there's a system of like electronic passes. So you're allowed to leave the house like 2 times a week, and whenever you have to do that, you need to go on the website and make like an electronic pass for yourself, which is like a QR code, and there you need to enter like the day that you need to go somewhere, like where you're going, like your like name, your passport stuff. So that's how they're doing it
We
here.
we are so lucky over here. Like well, I will get done here. I will get my keys. I will walk out my door. I will get in my car and I will go wherever the f I want to go. And that is one of those things. Even as a former Marine, it's like the reason I went and did served. I didn't go to have to do see any bad stuff, do any things like I was in the Clinton years. Like one of the reasons why I did that is so that the people that live here in the United States have one the right to vote to defend that, but two, like to defend the right to say things in the right way. And
Mm.
we had people are wondering like what it's like over here in the States right now. It's like it always is. It's the Wild West. People do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, whenever they want to do it, and hopefully there's repercussions for it. And we're just a young immature country, and that's why
Yeah.
I respect the fact that you guys, it sucks like to hear that. It makes me appreciate my freedom so much more. Like I can't imagine what this country would be like if we had to physically, they made us go and do something so we could go outside. Like people would lose their shit.
Yeah, in America, people would riot, I think. But like here, you can try and get away with it, like going out of the house without the pass. But if the police stops you, they'll fine you, or they can like take you to the police station. So it's better to not risk it.
Well, it is better, and plus you're looking out for each other. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's for like the safety of everyone.
So when you look at the States, you guys over there, obviously, and I'm just speaking in generalities, you guys got to be looking at us like you guys are some crazy mother effers, right?
The weird thing is, on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, like many, especially young people in Russia, are very fascinated by the US. Like for us, like it's like it sounds like some sort of like a weird TV show, like, oh, a person like went outside with an assault rifle because they couldn't get a haircut. Like what? It's like a comedy skit almost, And I know that it's like very serious for you guys, and I don't want to like make fun of it or anything.
No, you're not. It's a joke to me because there's people like that they think it's okay. That it is, and it's not a joke. I mean, it is, but it's not, because I look at this stuff on television and the fact that a lot of these people, they're not a representative of the people that live in that place. They're not from there. So
and for us, like the whole thing, it's because of the media, it's because of like pop culture, and it's because of all the like informational wars between Russia and the US. But for most people in Russia, like like the image of an American is like a person who only eats burgers and who like walks around the park with an assault rifle and like
yeah,
wearing American jeans.
Right? Yeah. It's I will tell you this because I've been fortunate enough to know and been around individuals that are from the country of Russia, and it's a huge amount of respect. Like I told you before, like the individuals I have, hard workers, like some of the hardest working individuals I've ever been around in my life, and I respect the Russian culture a lot of times way more than ours, even though we're free, is because you guys are doing what you're supposed to do. You're being socially conscious. I mean, yes, you have to be, but no, you don't, because you could still get arrested and jailed for coming out of your house. But you still have the option to do that. But you choose to be socially responsible and say, hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing it. Here in the States, like we've become so, like you're right. We just sit around and I'm gonna go get a burger. I'm gonna get a taco if I want it. I'm gonna order a goddamn pizza and have it delivered, and you're gonna do
I mean,
this and
we
that.
can order pizza too. Deliveries work right now. But I'm planning to order pizza today, actually.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even though Russia like might sound more orderly than the US, it's not necessarily true, because the thing about Russia is that every like social thing, like social movement or social stuff, is very suppressed.
Yes.
Like it's and like you know we are used to seeing America as like the country of freedom, right?
Yeah.
And I know what's happening right now in America is in no way representative of that, and like my heart breaks for everything that's like happening right now, and it's painful to watch. But for us, like, it's also very dangerous to go to even like a peaceful protest. And as I started again telling you off camera,
Yes.
there were protests last summer. There was police brutality, and the protests were because independent candidates weren't allowed to participate in the election.
Yep.
So we have this whole like entire political situation that's like very solidified, and like it's like not questioned. And that's like the entire problem. And while America seems at times dangerous, seems at times unruly, it's still like, for a person from the outside, it still looks like you guys have a choice.
And that's we do, and that's the
Yeah.
ultimate thing at all the point in time, is what it comes down to, is that we have a choice, and a
Yeah.
lot of those choices we don't make the right ones, and we
Yeah,
should.
that's also true.
We really don't make the right ones, and it's been a long time since we made the right ones in a lot of situations, and hopefully it gets better.
I was saying that I don't want to talk about politics that much,
Yeah.
but the one thing that I want to say is the one like piece of misinformation that's taken very seriously in America, and it's very funny to like the entirety of Russia, is that Putin somehow helped Trump win.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've seen many people in many people in America who believe that, and they're not necessarily like like stupid people or misinformed people. They're just normal, smart, educated people who believe that. But for us here, it's like a joke. Like, it's completely like no one believes that, and no one even thinks that it could be done. And I feel like even though the government or like the press might try and play into it, because it's kind of flattering for them, like, oh yeah, like we have so much power that we influenced America. But in reality, like, I do not think it's possible in any way or form.
What really happened in that election is I'm going to agree with you, and people are going to be pissed because I do, but I agree, because what they don't realize is there was 3 candidates in that election, and it wasn't so much the Russian meddling and this and that. I'm sure there's always informational wars. There's stuff that goes on. There's
Yeah,
a
of
Cold War.
course.
I mean, I'm sure that happens, but to say that
That it was the deciding factor?
no, you had, if you would take the Gary Johnson votes and add those, even half of those, to Hillary and the other half to Trump, the election sways the other way. So it's our fault. It's our responsibility. It's our accountability.
And another thing about politics that like sets apart Russia and America in a huge way, like, say this past like election, well, not this past election, the current election, like, you guys are electing the candidates, and that is like the main thing, right? And if I were an American citizen, I'd be voting for Bernie to be the Democratic candidate. And so many people are like afraid of him and cautious because they think that he's like this hardcore socialist.
Yep.
But in reality, what he's suggesting is not socialism. Like, it's no way, like, it's nowhere near socialism.
Just take care of each other.
of course, I've never lived in the USSR myself, right?
Right.
But I kind of know the history of my country, I guess you could say. And the real socialism is like a nightmare. It's not the answer. It's horrible, and it's taken the lives of tens, hundreds of thousands people in Russia. Like, you can go and ask like any person my age, whether they're like grandma or great grandpa was repressed by the socialist USSR government, and there's not a person who doesn't have a relative who was jailed or repressed or killed by the USSR government. So
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing. It's a very different animal.
Yeah, and the thing that people understand is that, yeah, we are the United States, but we are still infantile as a country. I mean, we're just 250 some. That's nothing in time. I mean, in all reality, it's. And you're right. We have two old white people again to choose from. That, and I just hope any leader surrounds themselves with people that, if they have a deficiency, puts people in that position that can help them out. So I don't know. I appreciate your time. I really 100% appreciate your honesty and candidness. Like, it's refreshing for me to be able to do this and have a conversation with. You're fine. It'll happen here. You watch a 2-year-old come jump in my lap sometimes, so don't ever worry about it. We'll have to do this again sometime. And,
Yeah,
I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate, people from your channel coming over and hanging out. And if you need anything at all, just holler out to us. And as always, folks, obviously you better be following Xenia down there on the bottom.
And actually, one other thing is I'm having like a pretty cool giveaway on my Twitter right now. If you guys follow me on Twitter, it's the pinned tweet on my profile, and you guys can participate and win a Chris Jericho Funko Pop, an exclusive John Cena action figure, some other cool stuff. So I would appreciate your viewers taking part in that. That would be cool.
Yeah, Chris Rucker, Marty Vasquez, you guys are out there. I'll make sure they hear that. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we're going to do this again.
Yeah, definitely.